Welcome to the DEC4 podcast. You can access episodes, companion articles, research notes and links, as well as information about our contributors and supporters at DEC4podcast.com. Hope you enjoy the program.
For me, I worked in sound and lighting at Revesby Workers Club, which was one of the bigger rock venues, particularly towards the latter part of the 70s, really around about 1975 or so. That's when pub rock really was at its peak, I guess. And it was just brilliant because there were so many bands and such great bands as well. And because they were playing literally every night of the week, they were really great bands as well. They were very, very tight, and it was just a tremendous atmosphere to go to your local pub. But when it comes to pub rock, well, I think we have to thank Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, because Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, Billy Thorpe had been around since the 60s, and the Aztecs in the 70s were an entirely different band from the Aztecs that he had in the 1960s. It was because back in the 1960s, Billy was just a singer. Nobody knew he could play guitar. But in the 70s, that's when he got out his guitar, and a really, really tight band. They had the reputation of being the loudest band in Australia, and they were. And I can prove that because when I was at Revesby Workers Club, they were on the night. Sound limitations came on, and you weren't allowed to hear them above 100 decibels outside the venue. So I went out with my little decibel measuring machine. 2 blocks away, they were still 120 dB. So it's a wonder the council didn't pounce and close the place down. But night of the week, you could go to any pub on any night of the week and see great bands performing. So it was just such a great scene. Somewhere
like the Revesby Workers Club, what sort of capacity would that have had for crowd numbers?
Well, they didn't have seats. It was all standing. Well, I might have had seats around the walls for people. People got up, and now it might have just been a bit of headbanging sort of thing, but they weren't doing the waltz or anything like that. But people were up standing and getting close to the shows. I think we could fit 1,200 in that room. It was a big, big room.
Yeah.
And that's on a rock night. We had people. Chuck Berry was on. That was interesting. Well, that was a seated show. But Chuck Berry, because what he used to do is he used to fine the venue $1,000 because he would never rehearse. He'd just come on, play, do the show, and then get off.
And he'd use a pickup band, wouldn't he? He didn't bring his own musicians.
And he'd use a pickup band. Now, didn't bring his own musician. He travelled with his daughter, and I happen to know for a fact that he went to the local Chinese restaurant across the road from Revesby Workers Club to have dinner. And then when it was time to come on, he walked across the road. The band saw him in the wings, so they started playing. Now, the band that they got was a brilliant band, and they knew it. So what happened was you had to give him $1,000 US in cash before he came on. And if he liked the band, he would give it back to you. He was doing his last number, and he just walked off the stage. On his way out, he gave the $1,000 USD to the promoter. It's a good band, and just went out. He didn't stay for an encore or anything. It was just unbelievable. But no, there was just so much going on. They had Hound Dog Taylor and the HouseRockers. This was a Chicago blues band, and the youngest member was about 67. And God, they were playing pure Chicago blues. Now, they had this 20-year-old roadie with them who was asleep, and Hound Dog said to me, "Oh, we love him. He can't keep up with us," and the youngest is 67. You know? And they nearly blew the studio apart. It was it was raw and it was loud, and so I've had all these great experiences and that.
And I do hope you enjoyed these few moments with Steve Collins. The full episode is Once Upon a Time in Sydney. After the end credits, in just a moment, Steve briefly recalls the thrill of sitting in on an Alexis Korner session at ABC Studios. And now don't forget our companion newsletters on Substack, and now with expanded versions on our own website, with additional background and media and links to further reading, viewing and listening. This time we have some more on Hound Dog Taylor with embedded audio, and also a link to a detailed Billy Thorpe bio thanks to Miles Ago, and some Chuck Berry as well, including a 2017 obituary from our own leading contributor Gary Wells at soulrideblog.com. And we also link to Steve's YouTube channel so you can keep up with his latest travel adventures. Thanks to everybody who supports us by sharing the episodes and articles on social media, and for all the comments on Facebook. We appreciate them very much. Thanks again to Steve Collins, to Gainesville, and thanks so much for listening.
Original music by Gainesville, keeping the spirit of Tom Petty alive in Europe and playing great classic rock and roll. Check them out at gainesville-band.de and link to their socials. The DEC4 podcast is also brought to you in association with tellmewheretogo.com. If you love travel, now more than ever, it's important to listen to the experts.
Podcast terms and conditions can be found at our website, DEC4podcast.com. You can contact us there or on our social media. Find us on the major podcasting platforms, and we're also on Substack, Facebook, Tumblr and Instagram. This has been George Fairbrother. Thanks for listening.
Fan of the Rolling Stones, which made me a huge fan of Alexis Korner, who was the guy that gave them their first start. And Alexis Korner was in a tour in Australia, and so they were recording him, and I managed to sneak in. And to be in the presence of Alexis Korner, who I have the most greatest respect for, because you name a famous rock musician from the early period of the 60s, Alexis Korner probably had something to do with them, you know, through my work at the ABC as a sound effects man, one of my work colleagues sold programs at the Hordern Pavilion, which was the big international rock venue. Yeah. And so I said, she said, yeah, they're always looking for people. Come along. You want to do is show people your seats and you see the show for free. So, I'm in that. And you got paid for it. You know, I wasn't there for the money. I was making good money, but I was there to see the artists. And all you do is put on this orange bloody jacket and show people to their seats.